At first, it was just small help for her friends. Nothing serious. Until one conversation made me realize my finances were no longer considered mine at all. It started with a small favor. That is how these things usually begin, right? I remember the exact moment, too. I was sitting at the kitchen table, going through some invoices for work. I run a small landscaping business. Nothing flashy, but steady. I have built it from scratch over the last 8 years. I keep my bills paid. I max out my Roth every year. I have no debt. I am not rich, but I am solid. My girlfriend, Haley, walked in holding her phone like it was about to explode. She said her friend Jess had just had her hours cut at work and was freaking out about rent. Haley looked worried, genuinely worried, and said something like, she just needs a little help. Just for this month. I told her I would try to ask around. I should have picked up on it then, the way she said it, like she was testing the waters. I told her I could spot Jess a couple $100, and Haley lit up like I had just handed her a miracle. She said she would make sure it got paid back. I believed her. Jess did pay me back a few weeks later, even tossed in a little thank you card with a Target gift card inside. It felt harmless at the time. A kindness. A one-off. But I guess what I thought was a one-time thing, Haley saw as something else entirely. From then on, little requests started to show up like weeds. A friend's car broke down. Could I help cover the tow? Someone's dog needed an emergency vet visit. Did I have a spare 100? Another friend accidentally overdrew her checking account and needed gas money just to get to work. Each time, Haley would frame it the same way. She is just in a bad spot. Or, you do not have to give much, just a little. She always made it sound like I was the only one who could help. Like saying no would be cold-hearted. And every time, it came with this look, a mix of hope and assumption, that made it harder to say no. I was raised to be generous, especially if I have more than I need. And I did not mind helping now and then. But I started noticing something. I was never asked if I wanted to help. I was told, in Haley's sweet, soft way, that we should. Like it was our joint decision. But really, it was her call. My wallet. And that was just the beginning. After a few months, the line between being supportive and being used started to blur. At first, I would get a heads up. Haley would ask, or at least give me a warning before another small request came in. But then, things shifted. She stopped asking and started assuming. One morning, I got a Venmo notification while I was brushing my teeth. $250 sent to someone named Mara H. I had no idea who that was. I figured it had to be a mistake, but when I checked my messages, there it was, Haley, texting. I went ahead and sent it from your account. I will explain later. Turns out Mara was a friend from Haley's old job. She had bounced a couple of utility bills and was about to have her power shut off. Haley told her not to worry because my partner is amazing with this kind of thing. My partner. Now we can help. He will help. That stung in a way I did not expect. I did not say anything right away. I waited until dinner that night and brought it up as calmly as I could. I told her it made me uncomfortable that she moved money without asking. She blinked at me like I had just said I wanted to kick a puppy. But it was urgent, she said. You always help. I did not think you would mind. That line, I did not think you would mind, became the go-to excuse for everything. I started noticing patterns. Haley would take phone calls in the other room, whispering. I would hear things like, I will talk to him, or, he is usually generous, so I am sure it will be fine. I even found out that Haley had started telling her friends, her circle, that I was someone they could come to in a pinch. She had created this image of me as this calm, capable provider, someone with deep pockets and a soft heart. In a weird way, I was flattered, but mostly I felt trapped. One of her friends, Nadia, came over for dinner one weekend. After the second glass of wine, she leaned in and thanked me for everything I have done for the girls. She said it like I was some kind of sponsor. I laughed it off, but inside, I felt a slow churn in my stomach. I had not agreed to any of this. And yet, somehow, I was being treated like a shared resource, like a community fund with a face. I started wondering, was this love or was this access? And then came the twist that made everything worse. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon, when I came home from work early and overheard Haley on a video call in the living room. She was sitting cross-legged on the couch, talking to someone I could not see. Her tone was calm, collected, almost rehearsed. I stayed quiet in the hallway, not out of nosiness, but because something in her voice made me stop cold. She said, "Do not worry about the credit card thing. I already talked to him, and we will figure it out. I leaned against the wall, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. I had not talked to her about anything. No credit cards. No financial emergency. Then she said it. Look, he always comes through. He knows we're kind of like a family now. Kind of like a family. She was talking about me. And she was not just reassuring someone. She was making a promise on my behalf. Like I was some safety net she could offer to whoever needed it. Later that night, I brought it up. Calmly, like before. I told her I had overheard the conversation. Asked what she meant by, we will figure it out. Haley did not even blink. She smiled, reached across the table, and said, it is just how relationships work, right? When your people are struggling, you help them. I told her that your people did not mean my people. That I never agreed to become everyone's financial plan B. She waved it off like I was being uptight. You have the money, she said, like that alone made it okay. That was the moment I realized we were not in the same relationship. To me, we were building a life together. To her, we were building a platform she could stand on, and let others stand on, too. But here's the twist. A week after that conversation, I got a call from my accountant. He handles my quarterly taxes and keeps an eye on my cash flow. Nothing fancy, just a guy I trust. He asked if I had started supporting a nonprofit. I said no. He said he had noticed nearly $5,000 in transfers over the past 2 months, mostly in small chunks, going to half a dozen different people, none of whom I had ever mentioned before. And there it was. Not only had Haley been funneling my money to her friends, but she had done it quietly, in a way that would not raise flags right away. 100 here, 200 there, sometimes from my personal account, sometimes from the business, all under the radar. That was when it hit me. This was not about kindness anymore. This was exploitation dressed up as empathy, and it was only going to get worse unless I did something. I did not say anything that night. I needed time to cool off. Think clearly. I did not want to yell. I wanted to be sure I was not overreacting. But the next morning, I sat Haley down at the kitchen table. No distractions. No soft lead-in. I told her I needed us to have a serious conversation about money, specifically about my money. I explained everything I had learned. The quiet transfers. The recurring payments. The names I did not recognize. I laid it all out, calm and steady. She tried to play dumb at first. Said she thought those were just shared expenses. That she assumed it was fine because I never complained before. That is when I finally said it. Not with anger, but with certainty. I want to be very clear. My money is not a shared emergency fund for your friends. I do not mind helping people from time to time, but this has turned into something else. I never signed up to be a silent co-signer for the financial messes of people I barely know. She looked stunned, then hurt, then angry. You make more than enough, she said. You act like it is such a big deal, but it does not even affect your lifestyle. I told her it was not about the money. It was about the expectation, the entitlement, the assumption that because I had, I should always give. That because I was stable, I owed the unstable. I told her I loved her, but I was not comfortable being used as a lifeline for problems that were never mine to begin with. And then came the line that broke something between us. She said, that is what partners do. They take care of each other's people. I asked her when that got decided, when my account became open to anyone in her life who asked nicely enough. When did I agree to become a fallback plan? She did not have an answer for that. She just looked at me like I had failed some invisible test. Then she said it. You are being selfish. That word hit harder than I expected. Not because I thought it was true, but because it showed me how far apart we really were. In her eyes, choosing not to fund her friends' lives made me cold. In my eyes, setting boundaries made me responsible. The room went quiet after that. No yelling. No tears. Just silence. But I could feel something shifting. A crack forming in the middle of what I thought was a strong relationship. And I had no idea what was coming next. After that conversation, I thought maybe things would cool off. That we could reset, maybe talk things through like adults. But instead of pulling back, Haley doubled down. For the next few days, the mood in the house shifted. Cold shoulders. Slower responses. I would ask if she wanted to make dinner together, and she would shrug. I would mention a movie we had talked about seeing, and she would say, I am not really in the mood. I started to wonder if standing up for myself had broken something in her view of me. Like I was only lovable when I was agreeable. Generous. Quiet. Then came the group text. I had never seen it before. She left her laptop open on the couch one night, and a notification popped up. A group chat called The Circle. I am not proud of it, but I looked. I wish I hadn't. There were 6 other women in it, Haley's friends. They were talking about someone's missed loan payment. One of them asked if Haley could talk to him again. Another said, honestly, she is lucky. I wish my boyfriend would help like that. But what hit me hardest was Haley's reply. She wrote, we had a small fight about it, but I am working on him. He will come around. He always does. That was when it stopped feeling like a relationship and started feeling like a campaign. I did not say anything right away. I wanted to pretend I had not seen it. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized how deep this ran. It was not just that Haley assumed I would help. It was that she counted on it. That same week, she hosted one of her friends, Tori, at our place. I was not warned ahead of time. I came home from a site inspection, sweaty and tired, and there they were on the patio, sipping iced tea like they lived there. Tori barely looked at me. She just said, thanks again for what you were doing. Seriously, it means a lot. I must have looked confused because she added, for covering my car note this month. I had no idea what she was talking about. That night, I confronted Haley again. She admitted it, kind of casually, like it was not a big deal. She said she had fronted Tori the money and meant to mention it. That she had used our account. Not mine. Ours. Except we do not share an account. Not legally. Not officially. Just functionally. Because she had my card saved on her phone. I stood there in the hallway, holding my breath, trying not to raise my voice. That was when she snapped. You are acting like your money is more important than people's lives. I told her it was not about money. It was about trust. That I had been patient, generous, open. But that did not mean I was a blank check for every crisis her circle encountered. She shook her head, said something like, I do not think I even know who you are anymore. Funny. I was just starting to figure that out for myself. But I stayed. For now. Because I still believed we could fix this. And that belief, it would come back to bite me hard. The moment everything finally tipped over came just 2 weeks later. I was in the garage, changing the oil in my truck, when Haley stepped outside with that same voice she always used when she was about to tell me something not a big deal. I could already feel it coming. She said her friend Lena was in trouble. Something about a loan shark, or maybe just a shady lender, someone who had started showing up at her apartment. Haley looked shaken, told me Lena was scared, crying on the phone, not sure what to do. She owes about $3,000, Haley said. If she does not pay it this week, she could lose her car. Or worse. I wiped the grease off my hands, looked up, and asked the question I always asked now. And what does that have to do with me? She blinked, like she could not believe I had asked it. Like the answer was obvious. She is my best friend, Haley said. And you said you would support me. This is me asking for your support. There it was. Not a suggestion. Not a conversation. An expectation. I asked her, flat out, if she had already promised Lena that I would pay. She hesitated. That pause said everything. I told her I would try, she admitted. I told her we might be able to help. That we again. The mythical we that only existed when my money was on the table. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence sit between us. Then I said it. The line I had been afraid to say for months. No, I am not paying Lena's debts. I am not paying anyone's debts. Not anymore. She stared at me, jaw tightening. I am serious, I said. I have helped when I could. But this is not my responsibility. I am not an ATM. I am not a rescue fund. I am your partner, not your sponsor. Her expression shifted. First shock, then offense. You do not care what happens to her, she asked. To any of them? I told her I did care. But that did not make me responsible. That did not make me obligated to clean up messes made by people I had never met. People who only knew me as the guy Haley lives with who covers things. I told her that if she wanted to help Lena, that was her choice. But she could not keep using my resources like they belonged to us when they were being used for others. That was when she said it. I cannot believe how selfish you are being. She said it like I had failed some fundamental test of love. Like being unwilling to shoulder someone else's financial disaster made me heartless. Then she added, you have more than enough. You just do not want to share. It felt like I had been punched in the chest. Because in her mind, having meant owing. In that moment, I realized something brutal. This was never going to stop. Not unless I made it stop. After that argument in the garage, the energy in the house went nuclear. We were still sleeping in the same bed, but it felt like opposite ends of a battlefield. Conversations were short. Eye contact. Rare. Any time I brought up boundaries or money, Haley would shut down completely. Or worse, deflect by saying something like, "I guess I just care more than you do." The thing is, I still loved her. Or maybe I loved the version of her I thought I knew. The one from before the favors started piling up. But now? Now it felt like I was dating a middleman for a financial support group. One where I had unknowingly become the main donor. The real fracture came during a dinner with her friends. Yeah, I agreed to go. I do not know why. Maybe I thought it would ease the tension. Maybe I just wanted to feel like things could still be normal. But the minute we sat down, I knew I had walked into a trap. It was 6 of us total. Me, Haley, and 4 of her closest friends. Tori was there. Mara too. And Lena, the one with the supposed debt collector issue. The wine was flowing fast. Everyone was laughing, talking over each other. But under the surface, I could feel it. This weird tension, like something unspoken had already been decided. Then it came. Lena, halfway through her second glass, turned to me and said, "Thank you again, seriously. I have no idea what I would have done without your help." I froze. I had explicitly said no. There was no misunderstanding. I had told Haley that I would not cover it. I looked at her, waiting for an explanation. She avoided my eyes. Then it clicked. She had done it anyway. Haley had either paid Lena with money from our joint card, or, worse, she had transferred funds from my business account. I had made the mistake of logging into it from her laptop once, months ago. She could have saved the login without me even realizing it. I excused myself from the table, stepped outside, and checked my phone. Sure enough, a transaction from 2 days ago, $3,100, labeled consulting expense. I felt sick. This was not about love anymore. This was not about kindness or generosity or being there for one another. This was manipulation. When I went back inside, I did not make a scene. I just looked at Haley and said, quietly, "We are going to talk. Tonight." She did not respond. But the silence that followed said enough. Back home, I asked her if she had used my account. She said yes. Like it was no big deal. Like she had just picked up a gallon of milk on her way home. "I had to," she said. She was desperate. "I knew you would be mad, but I figured once it was done, you would get over it." I stood there, trying to hold back the rage boiling in my chest. "You figured I would get over it?" She looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. Then she said something I will never forget. "You make more money than anyone I know. Why does it hurt you so much to help?" That was it. That was when I knew. She did not see me. She saw my wallet. And nothing else. I did not yell. I did not slam doors. I just stood there, staring at Haley, trying to find the version of her I used to trust. But she was gone. Or maybe she had never been there to begin with. I told her I was locking down every account. Business. Personal. Savings. I said I was pulling access from everything and setting up two-factor on every login she might have ever touched. She rolled her eyes. "You're being paranoid." I told her no. I was being careful. There was a difference. That night, I slept in the guest room. I did not say much. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the old fan, replaying every moment from the past year where I had ignored a red flag. The next day, I checked my credit. 2 new applications had been submitted in the past month. Both denied. Both in my name. That was the last straw. When I brought it up, Haley swore she had nothing to do with it. Said maybe it was identity theft. Maybe someone had hacked my info. She played dumb. Acted insulted that I would even suggest she had anything to do with it. But I did not believe her. And honestly, I think she knew I didn't. For the next week, we barely spoke. She walked around like a martyr. Quiet, dramatic sighs, eyes that always looked hurt but never apologetic. And then, one morning, I walked into the kitchen to find her on the phone, again whispering. I could only hear bits and pieces, but one sentence hit like a brick. "He just does not get it. He thinks money equals love, but then he withholds it like a punishment." That was when I walked out. Not just from the room. From the house. I got in my truck and drove for hours. No music. No destination. Just silence. I ended up at an old diner I used to go to before I met her. Sat at the counter, ordered black coffee, and just breathed. That was when it hit me. Somewhere along the way, I had gone from being a partner in a relationship to being a financial plan. A backup strategy. A soft landing. And I never signed up for that. When I came home that night, she was waiting for me, arms crossed, tears already in her eyes. She said she could feel me pulling away, that I was giving up on her. She said, "Is this really the hill you want to die on?" And I said, "No, but it is the one I need to stand on. That was the night I told her to move out. Not in anger, not in bitterness, just clarity. She cried. She called me heartless. She said I would never find someone more loyal. But all I could think was, loyal to what? Because it sure as hell had not been me. She did not leave right away. First, she begged, said she could fix it, said she would never touch my money again, that it was all just a phase, a rough year where she leaned on me a little too hard. I told her that leaning was not what she did. What she did was burrow into every inch of my life, plant seeds of dependency, and then act like they were flowers. She called me cruel for saying that, said I was twisting things. But she never denied any of it, never said I was wrong, just said I was too focused on the money and not enough on why she needed it. That was the thing. It was never about the money. It was about the entitlement. It was about how fast she had turned my generosity into her infrastructure, how she had built bridges from my bank account to people I had never shaken hands with and called it love. For the next few days, she moped around the house like a ghost, talking softly, playing music I liked, asking if I wanted coffee in the mornings again. I stayed polite but cold. My line had been crossed too many times. And this time, I was not letting guilt pull me back. The final conversation came on a Sunday. She asked if there was any way we could work through it. I asked her something I had never said before. If I lost everything tomorrow, would you still be here? She did not answer. Not right away. She looked away, started picking at her fingernail, and said, I do not know why you would ask that. I said, because it feels like the answer is no. She went quiet again. That was the last time we sat on that couch together. I helped her pack over the next 2 days. Quietly. I did not ask for anything back. Not the money. Not the cards. Not even the apology I knew I would never get. She moved in with one of the friends I had helped. I did not know which one. Does it even matter? What matters is this. I have not heard from her since. But a week after she left, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, you know, you could have just helped her. That's what real men do. I blocked it without replying. Because if being a real man means being exploited in silence, then maybe I will stick with being whatever I am now. Free, but still asking myself, AITA for refusing to let my finances be used to pay off my partner's friend's debts? It has been a few months now. The house is quiet again. My bank accounts are secure. My passwords are mine alone. No more random transactions. No more late-night whispers I am not meant to hear. No more we that only meant me. But the damage left behind? That is a different story. It was not just the money. It was what the money represented. I had spent so long convincing myself that giving was the same thing as loving. That generosity would buy me peace, or closeness, or maybe just stability. That if I kept showing up, she would meet me there eventually. Instead, I learned something I probably should have known already. People do not love you more when you give beyond your limits. They just get used to it. Looking back, there were signs. The first time I said yes, and she smiled a little too quickly. The way she always framed things as helping someone in need, but never once offered to cut back on anything herself. The growing pile of names I barely knew but somehow owed money to, through her. And most of all, the way she started seeing my boundaries as betrayals. That was the part one cannot forget. The day I finally said no. That was the day she started treating me like the villain. But here is the truth. I never stopped caring. I never stopped wanting to be a good partner. I just stopped being willing to bankroll a revolving door of other people's emergencies. There is this moment I keep thinking about. It was 2 days before she left. I was sitting at the kitchen table alone, looking at a spreadsheet I had made just to make sense of it all. Over $10,000 gone. Rent payments. Credit card bailouts. Just this once, loans that never came back. And none of it, had anything to do with me. I was not in debt, but I was drained. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I wanted a relationship. I ended up in a transaction. Now that I am out of it, I am starting to realize just how far I let it go. How slowly that line moved until I did not even recognize where it had started. And maybe that is why I am asking now. Not because I think I did something wrong, but because there is still a part of me, some broken, half-healed piece, that wonders if I was supposed to keep giving anyway. If love really means never saying no. So tell me, strangers, am I the asshole for refusing to let my finances be used to pay off my partner's friend's debts?